Alright, welcome back to the Maze Project Part 3. This is the last modeling tutorial, and then we'll get to lighting and rendering out our final images. So I wanted to share with you this little scene here. I just created some objects here. I'm going to turn on the wireframe unshaded again. It's this little icon here just to show you. And believe it or not, these objects here were created by these simple primitives here. And I'm going to share with you how to do that. It was just a very few couple steps to do this. It wasn't much at all. Primarily it was working through the channel box and then using a couple of extrude tools and a couple of modeling tools in the modeling toolkit. So we'll start off with a Taurus here, and what we'll do is I'll actually grab all these objects and I'm just going to send them off to the side just so we have something to compare to look at. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a Taurus here fresh. So I'm going to click on the Taurus icon here in the polymodeling shelf, and I'm going to scale it up a little bit just by grabbing the scale tool and then grabbing the middle mouse button to drag it up a little bit. And I need to be in the channel box again, so I'm clicking on the little channel box icons to the far right icon here. Make sure you have that open. Click on the Poly Taurus input. This is the inputs for this object. And so if you click on any of these items here and hold the middle mouse button and drag left to right, you can increase or change the size of it. So what I want to do is I want to have this about 1.8 for the radius here, and the selection radius I'll leave alone right now. I'm going to jump down to subdivision axis, and this is where it's going to start to look like the other shape. I'm going to drag this down to 6, and you can start to see it's like the same kind of shape now. Then on the subdivision height, I'm going to drag that down until essentially I get one bar along here on the edge, and that is 11 right now. It looks pretty good. And so what I'm going to do now is go to my modeling toolkit to kind of finish it off. So I'm going to click on my modeling toolkit, go into face mode, and I'm going to click on this face, which is the middle one, right? Then I'm going to hold the shift key and double click on this one, and that will create a whole edge loop. And then essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the extrude tool. So once I do that, I can then pull out the blue arrow and kind of create this cool kind of disc here that you kind of see there. Now what I'm going to do before I release, I want to add some divisions here, and that's this value here. So if I add some divisions, like maybe 4 there, I can then subdivide this and make it more interesting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of these faces, hold the shift key, and double click, and that creates the edge loop. So again, I'm holding shift on this one and then double click, and I create the face loop. Now it's important not to click off, so I'm holding the alt key and left click to drag to the other side. Essentially what I want to do here is select both sides at the same time. So I'm going to hold shift, click on this, and then shift, double click, shift, and then shift, double click. And now if I hold alt, you can see I have both sides selected at the same time. Then I'm going to click on extrude. And instead of going in, I'm going to going out, I'm going to go in a little bit and do a little offset there. And so essentially it's very similar to the other one. You can see there. So now I can go back to object mode, and we've essentially kind of done the same thing for this object. So I'm going to move this one to the side. Pretty cool, right? So with the cube, you can click on the cube, scale it up. And with this one, what I'm going to do is go again to the channel box, which is click on this top right icon here. Go to Polycube input. With this one, I'm going to drag down on all 3 of these. These are subdivisions, the width, height, and depth. And if I hold the middle mouse button down and then right click, you can see I'm subdividing it. Again, you don't have to do it interactively. You can just type in values here. So I'm going to type in, by just dragging downwards like this, type in a value of 9. So I get 9 subdivisions. And that should be plenty of geometry. I don't know if that's exactly the same that I use there, but it's close enough. I think 3, looks like I did 6 on that one. Or no, wait, it might be. We'll see. So with this selected, I'm going to go to my modeling toolkit again, and I'm going to hit extrude. And the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything is check this little box, keep faces together. Once I do that, now I'll have the ability to scale this in, these individual little boxes. So I'm going to click on the little blue cube, and I'm going to click on this center cube and drag to the left a little bit. And you'll start to see what happens. They start to scale in and create little mini edge loops all the way around everything. Then I'm going to do is click extrude one more time. This time pull out with the blue arrow, and voila. We now have a series of cubes that are all kind of going out in all different directions. So it's pretty easy to do. It's essentially just make sure this is turned off when you do that initial scale in. And so now I can go back to object mode, and now I have the second one done. So I'll move this one off to the side. The last one takes a little more steps. It's the cylinder here. It's this icon here in the poly modeling shelf. I'll click it. I'll go ahead and scale this up a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the number of subdivisions in here. So we're going to go to the channel box, again, click on the far right icon, go to polycylinder input. It's the subdivision axis here. I'm going to bring this down to maybe 8 would probably be good. And I think it's kind of tall, so that's the height. I can reduce that height a little bit by squishing it down, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add subdivision caps. So I'm just going to add an additional one. So it's 2 instead of 1. Get them by middle, clicking and dragging. But you can always click in here, type in 2, and you essentially have that middle cap there. Now what I'm going to do is, this one looks a little bit taller than the other one, so let me reduce the height just a little bit more. Something like that looks good. Alright, so now I'm going to select faces. I need to go to my modeling toolkit, click on faces, and then I'm going to click on one face, hold shift, double click. That creates the whole edge loop, right? And then I'm going to do that extrude technique again. So again, click extrude, and then click faces off, right? And then now I can click on the blue cube, and then click on this blue cube in the center here and drag to the left a little bit. And you can see I get that same little insert that's going on there all around. At that point, I can hit extrude again, and this time grab blue arrow and drag in a little bit to get that little offset. You can see there. Now, what I'm going to do next is a little strange, but it'll be kind of fun. I'm going to click on one of these faces. I'm going to hold the shift key and just select all these faces in here. So you have to do it one at a time like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here. Hold shift and select each of these around here. There we go. So I have both selected. Then I'm just going to hit the backspace key. That'll delete those faces. So you can see this one, it has an opening just like that, but there are faces in here. So how do you create that? Well, there's this other tool that's really fun. It's called the bridge tool. So I'm going to show you how it works. I'm going to click on edges for this, and I'm going to click on this edge and hold the shift key and double click on the next one. Click on this one and then shift double click, and so now I have the top one and the bottom one selected in that circle, right? It's real important you have both of those selected. Then you click on bridge, and essentially what happens is it bridges geometry between those two parts. Now I'm going to add one division there, so I can do that just by dragging across here to add a division by left clicking on that word, or you could just type in a value. So if you wanted 2 divisions, you could have 2 divisions in there, and then you'd have a little insert there. So what's nice about the 2 divisions is if I want to go back to faces, I could select this face, shift double click on this one, and do another extrude or something else to make it more interesting. Maybe I'll do an extrude and then go in a little bit there. So just to add a little bit more interest to the design. And then go back to object mode, and voila. So now you can see you got this cool little insert on the inside on both of these and on the outside. So that's some simple modeling tricks. Again, using the channel box to set up your changes. All these poly models, like if I click on a cone here and scale it up, each one has its own uniqueness in terms of the poly object. So if I click on polycone 2, you can see here there's a radius, which makes it big or small, a height, right, that makes it flatter or taller. And then there's this axis for the radius, which you can, sort of make like a pyramid basically. There's subdivision height, so that'll add some divisions along there. And then the cap is for the bottom, so it can give you some subdivisions there if you want to really start to do some interesting things here. So you can go ahead and try out other shapes, other primitives, and kind of mess around with that. And then go into your poly shelf and just select faces and see what you can come up with. If I double click again by holding the shift key, I can select those faces, do an extrude, and I can pull these out instead of in, and I got like this sort of platform for this. Maybe on these, if I double click on that ring, hit extrude, I can then, you know, keep faces together, click that, click on the blue cube and scale that in so I get these individual shapes, right? And then again hit extrude, and this time grab that blue arrow and go inwards, and I get like almost like a spaceship kind of pyramid kind of thing going on. Yeah, which is kind of fun. So try out different things, whatever you want. Again, you don't have to do these exact ones I've done. Just wanted to show you some simple steps on how to modify your geometry, start thinking about modeling. Again, we'll be more specific about actual modeling projects in the future. But I just want you to have fun, try things out, and enjoy. So next tutorial, we'll definitely jump into lighting, and then we'll just have one more for the rendering. Might be able to do both in the same one, but we'll see. All right, see you soon. Cheers.